Welcome to Clarity. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. It is a great day today for sure. And the reason is that it is apparently December 14th, which would mean that today marks the 7th year anniversary of Clarity Worldwide Inc. Wow, if I reflect and I look back at the past 7 years and what I've done and the progress that I've made, I am very proud of myself to say the least. Not only because I was able to start something that just basically didn't exist, it was something that I've always wanted to do. It was something that was just inside of me that I always wanted to just plan and do. But I was always pulled here and there doing things that I was also enjoying because I had a career that I was, doing what I wanted to do, which was basically the field of, criminology, law, and justice. I was working private security. I was, making good money. I was meeting a lot of new people. I was doing some pretty fun things. It was a little dangerous here and there, but it was mostly fun because of the people that I knew, the experiences that I had. But there was just something that was missing, and that was dealing with a lot of the good possibilities of human behavior and psychology. I sit here now and I reflect on the past 7 years, and I know for sure that I kind of made things more difficult on myself because I feel that if something is so difficult and just so ridiculous that if you give up, it means that you just didn't really care about it, you know? So when I first started Clarity Worldwide Inc., I was working at I was on a contract. I was just looking around. I was in like a skyscraper. I was in one of the oldest buildings in Chicago downtown. I was just looking at the lakefront, and I was just looking at just skyscrapers and just businesses, everybody just walking around and the beautiful lake. I was wearing a suit. I was armed, wearing a suit, doing some security at a high end contract. And I was just looking around. And at that time, I, was working private security for individuals that I guess would be considered in the top 10% of the population in regards to income. They had multiple businesses. They were entrepreneurs. Some of them were partners in businesses that were just booming, and I was basically working for them. Although they needed me and they wanted me, and I was kind of protecting them, like as a bodyguard or, whatever it was, loss prevention, asset protection, whatever you want to call it. I was doing it. And at an intellectual level, other than the physical level of obviously just working security and just being involved in conflicts, is I guess, the simplest way to explain that. You don't really need security for when things are going smooth, do you? But I was just looking around and I was just thinking. I was an investigator as well. I was working some covert things, and I was always just ended. I was always working for someone. Okay, whether I was working for the security company, whether I was working for private clients, whether I was just volunteering my time here and there. It was good. I was eating at fancy restaurants. I was buying whatever I wanted. I had clothes. I had my shoes. I had everything that I needed. I was buying my tools of the trade. But there was, like I said, something missing in all of that. And that was just my capability to express my intellectual knowledge and capabilities, okay? Because when you're working for someone, you're always just receiving information, do this, do that, go here, go there. And a lot of the things that we had to do were just, observe and report, even. So even if I was sitting there 12 hours just tired overnight, just observing something and just like, I see it happening, and then they're like, yeah, you can't do anything about it. You just got to write it down. So I always felt like, constricted, constrained. I was always limited somehow. And I slowly, towards the end of my professional security career, which I mean is not really considered the end, I guess, because I still do it from time to time. Like it's just me, as far as the personality goes. But towards the end of my experience working for a private security company, I started developing and working on Clarity Worldwide Inc. And what happened was I found that I didn't have time to split between those two things. And actually, one of the moments were when one of the owners of the company told me that I had to choose between one of the two divisions, because there was a patrol division, entertainment division, and each one of those things had different things. And I actually was recently promoted to an investigator. I earned a badge. I became like a supervisor, head of security in some contracts. I got people under me, and it was kind of split between both of those divisions. And some people that I worked with knew what I was doing, because obviously they were my colleagues, they were my peers, they were my friends, and we told each other a lot of things. And I told them that I was working on my own business. I started a corporation. It was an academy specifically regarding human behavior and psychology. I also wanted to start kind of like a charity where it would help individuals experiencing bullying and domestic violence. And of course, there was a lot of people working security that were doing side hustles as well. And for some people, the security job was actually the side hustle. So it's kind of like I got to experience a lot of different varieties of what work was and what a career was and what, is important, what are the priorities. And one of the managers sat me down and said, listen, you're wearing too many hats. Okay. And I was wearing too many hats within the company. Okay. This is not pertaining to my own new business that I just started. All right. Which already in the back of my head, I already had people telling me like, dude, like, businesses fail in the first couple of years. I don't know what you're gonna do. Like, you're starting over. People saw it as me starting over. People saw it as like people saw me as a security guy. Like when they saw me, I was an investigator. Okay, I was security. I was a bodyguard. All right, whatever it was. So when I was telling people, I was actually deep down inside and within and without, I was just a behavioral psychologist, okay? Which is why I was even good at investigations, is why I was good at, doing interviews. And by interviews, I mean like kind of like mini interrogations. And it was the reason I was able to do a lot of the undercover work that I was able to do. It was the reason why I was successful at working security. It was why I was able to, diffuse situations, because I was a behavioral psychologist. I was always intellectual about it, okay? And although, training is physical and the interactions and experiences are physical, as you can even see from my book that I wrote, this year. So during my 7th year of operation is when I decided to write my book, which has all the things written in it. But I was just pulled here and there, and the manager, the supervisor, the owner was right. I was wearing too many hats, and I started slowly thinking about that, and I'm like, I am wearing 2 hats, and it wasn't the 2 hats that I was, being told about. It wasn't entertainment or patrol that I was wearing too many hats of. It was Clarity Worldwide Inc. and working security. That was the too many hats that I was working, because as a supervisor, as head of security or whatever it was, you don't work regular shifts anymore, okay? You have a lot more responsibility. You have to start making schedules. You have to start planning things. You have to start doing things. You have to start having more meetings. An 8-hour shift all of a sudden is a 12-hour shift, and even a 12-hour shift is now like a 24-hour shift. All right, because if there's a major music festival, you're the one that's going to have to plan the whole thing, and you're going to have to deal with 10, 20 people at that point under you. And those individuals are either capable or not capable. And you have to just deal with all those things. So yes, I was split. Yes, I was wearing too many hats. And slowly, I started transitioning into just being the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc. And this was all even before the first year, because I don't think I even continued working security through the first year of Clarity Worldwide Inc. because it was getting a little rough emotionally and just, mentally, physically, it was just draining. It was really, really draining. And I was very conflicted. Because I had a consistent stream of income. I was able to do things that, I normally wouldn't be able to do, which was basically, hang out and be around individuals that were, better off than I was for sure, and better off than a lot of people. And, that's kind of fun. All right. That's kind of like exciting, being at clubs, going to fancy dinners, wearing a suit, and being so tough and powerful, and just being the protector and things like that. And then having to transition to zero, okay, being a director of an academy, like where I was thinking, where am I going to get students from? I didn't have my mics, I didn't have my equipment. I barely had my laptop. I didn't have a computer even. So I just had my laptop. So I barely got this computer this year as well. So the studio computer that's helping me do all the graphics, helping me do all the audio, helping me to just broadcast and do all the things that I need to do, I just barely got in the 7th year. If I didn't have the determination to continue from the 1st year to the 6th year to the 7th year, I wouldn't even have the computer. I would have gave up. All right, because I didn't have a computer. I would have gave up. I didn't have 2 mics. I would have gave up. I didn't have 2 monitors. I would have gave up. I didn't have 2 lights. I would have gave up. I didn't have the knowledge that I have of coding, of graphic design, of website development. I didn't have all these things. I would have given up if I didn't have the idea, the determination, and the future insight of seeing myself in the future, developing myself in the future, developing the brand, developing the company for the future. I would have given up. Even till this day, I have to sit there and just think like, man, like I should just get back into security. The funds are running low. I don't have students. I barely sold a couple of books here and there. How am I going to do a lecture? How me thinking about selling out a theater, okay, for selling out a theater of 4,400 people, okay, for I don't even know what's considered like a show, you know. That's what it is, you know. It's like once you start doing that, it's like kind of show business because I have to give my book lecture, but I have to have it be entertaining. I have to involve other people. I'm gonna need lighting and not just studio night lighting. I'm gonna need theater lighting. I'm gonna need theater cameras. I'm gonna need just people, you know, backing me up. Things are no longer going to be just about solo, you know, director doing things that I have to do just to keep the operation moving forward. So even now, I'm just like, I could always go back to work in security. I mean, who hasn't seen that security guy or gal or whatever that's just 70 and just working security, you know? Like security will always be there. And not only is it security as in physical security, but it's security financially because, I mean, let's just face it, people are willing to pay for protection. All right. People aren't trying to pay too much for developing their personality. All right. Developing their life, things like that. They would love it if I just did all the work for them, you know? But getting students and things like that is not that hard, you know? So all of these things together have just brought me to the point where now it's just the 7th year anniversary. And as I reflect on it, I could reflect on, I mean, I've done obviously annual reflections every year. I've thought about, wow, the first year, the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, 7th year now. And I could think of ahead to the 10th year. I could think ahead to the 20th year. And I actually could think now to the 100th year. Because without me in existence, Clarity Worldwide Inc. will continue as an academy. Just how many corporations, many companies, many academies, many schools are in operation without the founder, you know? So that gives me comfort knowing that what I'm doing is beyond myself, okay? It is well known by this point that I am not really a capitalist. You know, I one of the weakest points of Clarity Worldwide Inc. is that I barely charge people for anything because I just can't charge people to help them. You know what I mean? It's kind of a mix between a moral obligation of my capabilities to assist individuals and lead them to a better version of themselves and cashing in on it, you know, capitalizing on it. So, I mean, it's kind of wild because most of the 7 years that I have established and worked on Clarity Worldwide Inc. were so tough because I was not comfortable in this studio. I was in the first year when I transitioned from working security to just being full-time director of Clarity Worldwide Inc. I had kind of I don't even know if it's a breakdown or just a epiphany or just something happened where I was pulled in so many directions that I wanted nothing. I just wanted to be blank. I wanted to be empty. I wanted to not do anything. I was doing too much that I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to worry about money. I didn't want to worry about surviving and having that dependability. Like I had to depend on that job. Like if I didn't get paid, I thought that I was gonna die or I was gonna starve. I was gonna be homeless. You know, people were telling me that, you know, success was based on, you know, your wealth, you know, things like that. And I just had to prove everybody wrong, I guess, that was telling me that, because there were supporters. There were supporters, and many of the people that were supporting me at that time were people in the same situation as me, and they kind of looked at me as an example or as the person that would show them that even what they wanted to do was possible. So all those people stuck. There were like a lot of people still feel like they're at dead end jobs. A lot of people feel like if they stop grinding and things like that, that their life would just end. Just you know, pleasing your family. You don't want to be a disgrace. You want to make your family proud, your significant others proud. Some people have, children that they have to take care of and they have responsibilities. And for me, what I ended up doing was just, I gave up all my money. I drained all my funds. I packed a few bags. Now that I think about it, you know, I carried even two when I wanted nothing, and I was just I got a ride to a convention. I went to a convention in North Carolina, and once I got there, I told the people that took me there and everything, they were just fellow convention people, and we just had to, go back home. And I told them that I was staying, and they were confused because they're like, "What do you mean you're staying? We all live in Chicago. That's where we're going. I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "No, I am staying here, and I'm just gonna see what happens." And I knew that I was gonna do that because I had planned it like a week in advance, which is not really that long. And having no funds, just being in the world on my own, like it wasn't really on my own. I had a companion that decided to also do something like that as well. It was the first time in a long time that I didn't know what was going to happen. Like I'm very calculating. A lot of the things that I do are very calculated. I already know what my moves are going to be, and it was life and death situations that I was always in where I had to know what the next thing that I was going to do was going to actually occur, because I would be severely injured, or even individuals or the contracts that I was at, property, whatever, was going to get overrun. I was security, like I'm the one that is in control. All right. When everybody around me is panicking and freaking out, I'm the one that has to maintain my composure and control the situation and regain, control of everything. So I decided that I was just going to lose all control. I was just going to do something just that I've never experienced before, and just go ahead and just do that. But even at that point, the transitioning from this moment to that moment, I still brought too much. I brought a gym bag full of things, okay? Like I had a tent, I had clothes, like 7 days worth of clothes, a bunch of socks. I scrounged up whatever food that I had available, that wasn't gonna go bad. I had a giant, like I didn't even have a blanket. Like from everything that I brought, I forgot a blanket. I didn't bring a pillow. I didn't do anything like that. And not only did I have that giant gym bag, I had a backpack as well. And halfway through, the backpack ripped from all the things that I had. So there was a certain point where I'm just walking. I'm walking down the street, walking down highways, walking down roads. People asking me, do I need help? People asking me if I wanted to, hang out with them or whatever it was. There was a lot of couch surfing, a lot of hitchhiking, whatever it was. Regardless, I made it from the East Coast to all the way to the west of North Carolina. Somehow, I'm still shocked to this moment that that occurred in a safe manner. I did have to sleep in the woods. I thought one of the most one of the most significant moments of my life, okay, of life and death situations, isn't being armed and having being threatened. It was being on top of a mountain that was basically so hot that I was so sweaty, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be easy because I'm on a mountain. There's like running water here and there. You know, things are not too difficult. To all of a sudden being spending a night in the woods by myself in pitch black, looking at the stars overlooking a cliff, and just freezing from 0 to 100, from being super hot to sweaty to all of a sudden freezing to I think I'm going to die right now because I'm freezing. And it just the darkness just started, you know. And that's at that moment is where I just had to give myself up to the elements. I had to just let go of what I was thinking. I had to let go of my physical body because I thought I was gonna die. I had no money. I ran out of food. I was on a mountain and it was freezing, and I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was literally gonna die at that moment. I was like, this is it. This is my last moment on earth as far as I knew it. Well, what am I doing? You know, is this like I have failed as the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc. in my first couple of weeks? You know, I am dead. All right, nobody. I didn't have like I had my phone on me, but it was completely useless because I wasn't paying the bill on the phone bill because I had no money, because I wanted to live without money to see how, like, you know, do I need to go work, clock in every day and do things like that? Was I willing to do what I was gonna do, you know, at the brink of death, it seemed. And there was no way for me to contact my family, my friends. Basically, I left my friends. Everybody thought I was crazy. They didn't understand what I was doing. They were worried about me, obviously, because this wasn't something that was supposed to be normal, you know, just abandoning everything and just hitting the road. So at that moment, I really understood what being alone was and being empty was. And from going to being pulled in every direction, having so many responsibilities and things like that, I went to just one singular responsibility, and that was controlling my mind in the situation that I thought I was gonna die at that exact moment. And it wasn't even from violence, all right? Because, like, in a violent situation, it is pretty stressful, obviously, because it's life and death. Somebody's threatening your life and others' life. But when the elements start getting involved, what am I going to do? I can't shoot air, okay? I can't, you know, karate chop the air, you know, the temperature. I had a bamboo stick. I had found a bamboo stick. And I thought if a bear ever came up on me, I would just swing at the bear and just kung fu the bear. You know, so even at that moment when I thought I was just gonna die, I had that confidence in me that I was gonna defeat a bear in combat, in hand-to-hand combat, at physical combat. I thought I was gonna defeat a bear. And I think about it to this moment, like, I'm dying right now because I'm gonna die of hypothermia. All those shows that I've been watching about survivors surviving in the wild and things like that have told me that this is the symptoms of you're about to die of, like, hypothermia and starvation and dehydration and all that at the same time. It all met at the same point. But somehow I still had it in my mind that I was going to defeat a bear in physical combat. And at the same time, I thought I was going to die from the nature Okay, I was hoping the bear would come because at that point I would be able to prove that I was willing to survive. But against the elements, you're just, you can't do anything. You cannot do anything against nature. You can build a shelter and you can do all these things that humans have done over, our existence. But for me at that time, I just I thought it was over. I actually thought it was over because even before the sun went down, I was already hungry. I was already tired. I was already thirsty. Uh, I wasn't really scared, because I knew I chose to do it. So I'm not going to be scared of something that I chose to do. I wasn't intimidated. I knew what I was doing, and I knew that in order to come across the other side of it, I had to experience that because that's what I was there to experience. And the sun came up. That was the longest night of my life. But the sun came up, and from that very moment, I knew that it is not easy to die. It is not easy to give up. Your body's not going to give up. Your mind might think it's about to give up. Your mind will give up before your body does. So once at that moment, I caught up with myself, basically. I caught up with myself. My whole life flashed before my eyes. My entire experience and everything flashed before my eyes. The day before that, I was on top of a mountain, and for some reason, like, I wasn't able to even, like, when you're on top of a mountain, you want to yell like, "Oh, I'm on top of the world," or something. Like, I was still kind of held back, like, "Oh, don't do that. Like, you might disturb all the animals in the wild, or something." I don't know what I was thinking, but I just didn't do it. I was very limited. But from a level of confidence, I was super confident. But as we all know, like, being super confident is still, possibly negative, which I explain in my book. But at that time, it was just all or nothing. I just went all in. And that was in the first year. That was in the first year of Clarity Worldwide Inc. And after that experience, that night that I thought I was dead, I thought I was just dead for sure. There was no way for me to call my parents or my anything. They don't know where I was. They don't know what was going on. I felt like they needed to experience the idea of me being gone, and it was just everything all together. And it all somehow revolves around just Clarity Worldwide Inc. You know? I just went to the deep end, as they say. And like I said, when the sun came up, I realized that I was still there. And the sun was back to being hot. I was back to sweating. I packed up that tent, which was really not, like, I might as well have just slept on the floor because the tent, I don't even know what tents are for, to be honest with you, and I realized that at that moment. And I didn't go home. I didn't call anybody. I didn't do anything. I just packed everything up and continued walking. And that very day, I basically was, there's a program, like an app where it's like, you go couch surfing, which basically is a lot of people in the world that love doing that as well, backpacking through Europe, or I was basically backpacking through the United States. I didn't want to go around the world. I wanted to see the United States. And all of a sudden, I just found a network of support. All of a sudden, everything was easy. It was all of a sudden, I had felt that everything was shed, you know. I met people that were senior citizens at that point that were like, oh, I've done that and I've experienced this and that. And they accommodate your travels. They support you because they have the experience already. They've gone through what you've gone through. So it's kind of like, oh, I am not alone in this. I'm not the only person on the planet that has ever done that. Obviously, there's individuals that are, consistently homeless, and things like that. But there was somehow just more comfort. I had somehow broken through what was my limit at the time. I thought I was done, and I wasn't regretting anything because I told myself that this is either going to be the end or the beginning. So I had to I started it off. I started off Clarity Worldwide Inc. at the maximum possible potential that I could, the maximum possible way that I could. And I found that support and I was happy. I was having fun all of a sudden. I was experiencing new things. I was looking at nature differently. I was looking at, like my physical capabilities. I have walked miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. I never walked miles and miles and miles and miles before. Once I started driving, I stopped walking. Like I would even walk down the block because I could drive down the block. Why would I walk down the block when I could drive down the block? So that led to actually me not driving anymore. I stopped driving because, I saw it as a limiter because, that's just, what it is, and as you can see from all my videos about my influence radius, that my influence radius is revolving around me walking. So if you're within 2 miles of me, you're within my influence radius because I could walk 2 miles in no time. Even if I was going to spend the hour walking, that's fine. So from North Carolina, I ended up seeking some kind of refuge, especially with my companion. But for them, their experience was kind of different than mine because they still maintained their financial stability and things like that, which is fine by me. They could do whatever they want. I was not eating. I would just sit at the restaurant while they were eating, and I would not eat because I couldn't, and things like that, So I ended up going south. So once I made my way back south, it was warmer, okay, because obviously that's a logical thing to do is to go to a warmer area because I'm not gonna freeze. I ended up in Florida, which I was already kind of familiar with because it's not really the first time I ever moved away from home or, lived outside of a, stable home or anything like that. I've done it before. I've obviously gone camping before and things like that with friends, but, for a weekend or whatever. But I ended up making it to Florida and people were and I knew people there. So it wasn't like North Carolina where I just didn't know anybody. I knew one person where I started, but everybody that I met in North Carolina were new. And actually, it's kind of cool because a lot of the people at the nature tourist locations are older, retired individuals. And I was basically one of the youngest people there, other than my companion. and I would have conversations with people and things like that. And there was this one veteran, I will never forget it. And I told him, like, yeah, I'm doing this and that for this reason and that reason. And, I always look at veterans as somehow like just awesome, and just like so badass and just great. So everything that he said to me, I was just like, I can't believe like this badass individual is telling me this, and is like, well, what they were telling me is that what I was doing was great, and that many others should be doing what I was doing, and that it took them a while to do what they were doing because they retired, but they regret it because they could have done it sooner based on seeing me do it. So I was kind of like, you're the cool guy, you're the awesome one, not me. And then they were looking at me like I'm old now, like you're doing it already. Like, wow, you're the awesome one, and I was just shocked. So, I mean, although I do respect that individual obviously way more than me, but it was still kind of cool hearing it from them, like I didn't have my parents around me at that time because I was obviously disconnected. But having a figure that was like older and just badass, obviously from being a veteran and things like that, tell me that, it was kind of comforting, and it pumped me up even more. And I was back to my old self. I was back to myself that was the guy that was working security and just awesome and just standing there, and just beast, And from that moment, I worked my way down to Florida where I knew people, and they saw the situation that I was in, and they thought they were saving me or something. They're like, oh, stay with me. Like, oh, we can't allow you to do this anymore. Like we're gonna help you. And they were seeming as though they were helping me, like I was doing something wrong, or like, what I mean? And it was and I was looking, and that's the first time that I noticed, other than people telling me, don't quit. If you quit this job, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be a bum? You're gonna do this, you're that, you'll be back, like managers were telling me, oh yeah, you'll be back, they'll always be back and things like that. And I saw both sides, like I saw basically three sides. I saw the side of don't give up, don't quit. Like, here, you have to be working for us, like how are you going to get paid? How are you going to eat? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to do this? To being in the middle where I'm like, wow, how am I going to eat? How am I going to pay my bills? I'm going to die right now, to the other side where they're like, okay, you've done that. We need to bring you back now because obviously what you've done, you want to come back to this life, don't you? Like, you've done that. Now you want to come back, right? We're going to help you. We're going to help you return, like we're going to help you, bring you back into it, So I found myself not only defending my decision to initially do what I wanted to do, but then I was now defending the decision to continue doing it. All right. So it was kind of a different transition. It wasn't kind of, oh, don't do it. It was, okay, you've done it. Now, you've proven what you wanted to prove or whatever it was. And I don't even know the timeline at this point. I don't know if it was already a year that had passed, 2 years. I don't recall that. Like, I would have to look at my, my memories and things like that to figure this out. But it was, people were making it seem as though it was temporary. All right. Like, okay, you've done it, you've proved your point, go back to your family, go back to work, do this, do that, you've done it. Okay, cool. Wow. It's not a vacation. It wasn't a vacation for me. I wasn't going on vacation, I was making a life change. I was changing exactly what I had to do, And I found myself at the point where I was just defending myself, defending my company, defending my brand, defending my academy in all kinds of ways and things like that, which is kind of dying down at this point. I don't know what the other transition would be when I'm like, I guess, considered successful. All right, where people want to start joining me, whatever it is. Maybe there's a fourth phase to it. I'm not there yet, so I don't know, but it's kind of like something that I have to maybe assume will occur based on other individuals that have done what I've done and have succeeded. But the point is that 7 years later, here I am, and my stressors aren't whether I can survive in the wild. My stresses aren't whether eating daily is gonna cause me to die, whether the cold weather is gonna kill me, whether somebody making fun of me or telling me that I'm not doing the right thing. Now my struggles and my stresses are, finding students, working on my website, making an application, a chat application, making logos, making sure my audio is working fine, and it wasn't always like that. I didn't have a book that I could claim that I have a book. I wasn't a published author. Um, you know, so it's kind of like if I would have given up in the first year, I wouldn't even have reached this point. If I would have given up in the second year, I wouldn't have reached this point. There were so many years, leading up to the 7 years mark, where, obviously you already know, and you have to pay taxes on a business. You have to pay the annual fees on a business. I was barely covering my annual fees, for my business. There were some years where I had to choose between, my budget, okay, was to either save up a couple $100 just for the fee, and then not eat for a week because I needed to save up a week's worth of food money, or whatever it was, just for the annual, fee of just maintaining my legal status as a company. Okay, and that's other than rent, other than, maintaining, a lifestyle, some kind of a lifestyle, which wasn't even much of a lifestyle. That's where I basically, those 2 bags that I had carried became 1 bag, and that 1 bag is half empty. All right, what people, in survival situations call a go bag now. It had some toothpaste, toothbrush, some, I have paracord bracelets here, in case of situations that are very dramatic and emergency related. A blanket. I got a blanket. I still have that blanket, and I love that blanket, and it helped me live. And I just have a regular go bag now. I just have a bag. I could put my laptop in it. I've taken my mic around the world. Instead of one mountain, it has become multiple mountains. Instead of one state, it has become multiple states. Instead of 1 year, it has become 7. And I'm very proud of myself. I'm very proud of my academy. And as I reflect on it, I have no choice but to acknowledge that the foundation, the base of, my brand, my company, just involves a lot of things, like I consider myself the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc., an academy specifically regarding human behavior and psychology, but I find myself doing graphic design. I find myself having to learn how to learn coding languages. I find myself having to become a videographer. I have to find myself just being creative in ways that I never expected. I had to look at different perspectives. I have had to accept not only did I overcome my own personal stresses and dealing with stimuli and things like that, I transitioned into what I wanted to be, okay? Which was utilizing my skills and my intellect of human behavior and psychology, not in investigations and security and, you know, undercover work and dealing with just evil, dealing with scumbags, dealing with bad guys and just things like that, to transitioning to helping, using those things to help people, to raise people, you know, to support people. Being the best leader means that you're capable of being the best supporter. All right. And these things slowly started building up. All right. A couple of years ago, for fun, you know, I moved to another state once again, and I made a challenge, which wasn't really too popular because I still, even, you know, to this day, I don't really market too much. I don't cross post and things like that, which I think is going to be one of my goals for this year, that's coming up. And I found that I was able to go somewhere like brand new and start fresh and work my way up to a high level. Like, as my first test as a personal self experiment, I moved to another state. And not only did I move to another state, I moved to another city within that state where I knew nobody. And I got, you know, I got my first contract a few years ago. I would say 3 years ago now, or possibly two. I'm not sure. Um, at a private school, teaching, you know, young students at a well-established high-end private school. And some of my students were the children of individuals who I knew from like TV, you know what I mean? And they were my students, all right? So I had students that were the children, you know, of people that I personally looked at as like, and they were meeting me and talking to me at a level that was, you know, like normal, you know, normal individuals. You know, when I was working security, obviously I met celebrities and things like that, and wealthy individuals and like multi-millionaires and things like that. But we all knew at the end of the day, even though I was there to protect them and I could just probably, you know, beat them up or whatever it was, that I was working for them, you know what I mean? And um, with having somebody's, you know, child be your student, it's kind of like a different level, you know, like they ask you questions at that point. They need you for assistance or whatever it is, because you're obviously influencing their children. And that was to me like the moment. And during that time, I actually was going through a phase where I wanted to see how my physical appearance would influence individuals' interactions with me and perception of me, which is obvious. Like, I wouldn't wear a suit. I would wear a suit to like an interview or something, but I would wear regular clothes. Um, my beard, my hair, things like that. I was obviously a vagabond at that point, and they could tell that I was a vagabond. But through just my interactions with them, as a professional human behavior and psychology, even with like being attractive, attracting individuals sexually or whatever it was, my interactions were overriding my physical perception, which is why in my book I mentioned things like controlling or your approachability, and just perception management and all that. But I was working at a private school that was I was, very influential, and I was around influential individuals, and it was my first real contract as the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc., where I would get checks that said Clarity Worldwide Inc. on them instead of just my name. And I had to open a business account at a bank, and I'm just having meetings. People started serving me like coffee and drinks. Would you like this? Would you like that? Meet me here, meet me there. I started having business meetings and things like that. And that was just the halfway mark. So if it's 7 years, if I just reached 7 years now, and what I was doing was like 3-4 years ago, that was just the halfway mark where I started experiencing, some kind of credibility. And it wasn't credibility based on other individuals, because I will never use one person's testimonial to influence another individual to perceive me in a certain way. That's just not what I do. Like, what you need to perceive of me is what you perceive of me, through our personal interaction. But through that halfway mark is when I started establishing myself as a brand, as a professional. Although I did consider myself proficient in human behavior and psychology based on just my career already, which was already more than a decade. And somehow things start becoming different. People start looking at you, or looking at me in this situation, as real, all right, as factual, as a professional, willing to pay me, okay, because now I'm starting to get paid. I was not getting paid as the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc. for the first 4 years, I would say, or first 4 or 5 years of Clarity Worldwide Inc. What I was actually doing, well, I was technically getting paid as Clarity Worldwide Inc. I wasn't getting paid as Clarity Worldwide Inc. Okay, I was basically working for free for food and shelter. I was somehow looking at myself as either, in my mind, so valuable that I didn't want to charge individuals or not valuable at all, to be the most basic, bare minimum value, which was, hey, you want me to work with you? You want me to help you? You want me to work for you? Whatever it was that they wanted to perceive, I would need the minimum, which was food and shelter. Okay? So with food and shelter, I found myself sleeping on couches, I slept on, one time I slept on, those coolers, those like coolers, the large ones that are refrigerators that they have in businesses, and you just open up the whole thing and it's just full. I slept on one of those on top, not in. I slept on top of one of those because I didn't want to sleep on the floor, which was, roach infested and, rat infested in one business that was starting from zero, that they wanted me to help support them and help consult them with their business. All right. That was my first time business consulting. And the shelter that I received was, hey, I have kids and a wife at home, so I really don't want you to stay at my home. I can't afford a hotel for you or anything like that. How would you just be interested in just sleeping in the business location where it was being constructed? They were still doing construction. All right. So I was like, fine, I'm willing to prove to you that I am the best at this. All I need is food and shelter. So I would shelter myself there, and I would receive food. Either the wife would cook, or, this individual was obviously, in a position where they could afford food at least. And, they would get me food here and there 3 times a day, whatever it was. They were pretty fair, for what I asked for, which was food and shelter. I would say, and I worked my way up to affording rent. you know, and the rent wasn't really paying rent. It was, hey, my business is doing so good because you are involved in it that you can work your way up to actually living in a room in the place where I'm living now. I became a trusted individual. I became close, so I earned somehow a way to. I got promoted from sleeping in the business location to well heated and entertaining domicile. I don't even know. I'm gonna have to look up the definition of domicile, but I did that for about a year or two. Okay, so that was I've covered from year 0 to about year 2 was me just wandering around, wondering how I'm gonna live, and couch surfing, and you know, barely surviving here and there, learning what trade was, food and shelter, and just living off the graciousness of individuals that were kind of fearful. They were kind of fearful. They thought they were like helping me, because I was considered like a vagabond or whatever it was at the time. I was living on beaches. I've lived on beaches. I've lived on islands. I've lived on mountains. I've lived on city parks. There was one city I remember, like I was in front of a stadium, like a football stadium, and they had a park which was pretty large, and in the park they had kind of like a rock formation that was meant for like fountains and stuff, and I found a little like a crack in the wall which was like a mini cave, and I would just hang out there during the night, and during the day I would hop out and just do what I had to do in the world. But sneaking into hotels, which wasn't really sneaking, because they knew, they like, hey, this guy's been here for a while and I've never seen him come to the front counter for anything, so that happens. Living on an island is kind of cool, where you have to fish to survive, which is fine because there's so many people fishing, so many people on vacation. Nobody really notices you because you're just one of the many, and you go fishing, you got food, you do a little campfire, you got food, you got water, it's not hard, learning how to survive in the wild, surviving in society is not hard. I was never really like what is perceived as like a bum. I wasn't like walking around like dirty or anything like that. I washed myself, I maintained myself, I groomed myself. Until that 4-year halfway mark, where I got my first official contract as the director of Clarity Worldwide Inc., teaching students at a private school, which then gave me a boost somehow. Like I got a boost from that. I rented a room in a house with a very caring and loving individual that was very nice and introduced me to their friends and family and things like that. And I was very safe and comfortable because I had this contract. And also, I also had see, the benefit of working at a private school like that is that you only work like a few hours a week, and you could afford to live very well. So I took the opportunity of working there and maybe working about like 20 hours a week to get like some other, which is funny to me thinking about it, because I was able to get side hustles. I was able to just get side hustles while only working about 20 hours a week, like at max. Like, it wasn't even 20 hours a week because I'm just doing the math of like 7 days, but it was actually like 5 days yeah, let's just say 10 hours a week. I was able to pay rent, and I was able to eat what I wanted. I was able to just have fun, mild entertainment here and there, and I was living basically I was living on an island, which was attached to, I was in Florida, so like there was like a mini island off the coast of Florida, so I was working there, living there, and it was a very easy time of my life. It was very fulfilling because I knew at that point that I had achieved what I was trying to achieve. I knew what I was doing was valuable because I now have official credential. Like, yeah, listen, you think I'm nothing? I worked at a private school. You know what I mean? Like, for like people, I was teaching kids that were the children of individuals that you look at and say, wow, you know, I was with them. All right, I was among them, and I was able to branch into other things where I got into the like teaching acting, because method acting was kind of something that I found out was basically human behavior and psychology at its finest. And I wasn't only helping people that were struggling at that point, because in the beginning I was really finding people that were at their weakest points, at their lowest points, and they wanted me to help them like achieve. They saw what I had done and they wanted to do that as well, like, oh, you did that, I want to do that, I wish I could do that. And I showed them how to do that, and then I saw the people that I was teaching and that was influencing become greater and do things in a greater way, because they didn't have to do what I had to do to get to where I was teaching them. I didn't have anybody teach me anything. I did it all on my own, which was just my circumstance. But when I found individuals that were also doing that, I helped them, and I would like to think that I made things easier on them. I don't know where they are now because, it's just kind of catch and release. I'm not really trying to babysit anybody for the rest of their lives or anything like that. But that point, halfway through, Clarity Worldwide, 4 years in or whatever, I basically reached a point where I felt like, and I was validated by my professional capabilities. I was a professional. I was somebody, At the end of the year, when the government asked me how much you made, I told them I made some this year, hey, guess what, fellas? I made some this year. Thank you very much. That was like one of the times in my life I was happy that I could show that I made income to the government. You know what I mean? Like something that you always try to like minimize, like, oh yeah, I didn't make that much. I made it, but I spent it, No, I was so happy that year that I could like, somebody in some office somewhere looked at my company name and saw that it made some money, or whatever it was. And I was just so happy. And yeah, I did that for about a year or so, which would lead me to the 6th and 7th year, which is this year and last year. And we all know what the world has looked like in this time. And the something that I learned it during the time where there was this like the Great Recession, as they called it. Like when I saw people losing their jobs and things like that. I was just getting out of college at that point, but I saw people panicking, freaking out, like they've been working their whole lives and lost everything. So I kind of had like a glimpse, a little bit of a socioeconomic collapse of sorts and panic in the business world. But I never really understood that because I was always employed, But in the past couple of years, people started adapting to working from home, adapting to building, like computer sales were booming because people needed to get computers, home equipment, and things like that. And people were freaking out, trying to adapt to it. And I found myself already comfortable in that situation because I had already experienced it in the years before. I firmly believe in home businesses and things like that. I'm here in my studio right here in a basement of a house of my family home. All right. So I'm capable and fully understanding and fully stable in this situation because I have worked on it for the past 7 years. All right. So my past, obviously like 5 years of experience led me to really be comfortable in what's going on right now. And it's nice to see that it's, many individuals have adapted and have learned and have achieved and have figured out how to live and do all these things, which is great. Because now I guess everybody kind of could understand what I went through and things like that, even though I've gone through it before. And many individuals have gone and done that before me, as I've already mentioned on my experience of traveling, where I would meet senior citizens and older individuals that were me in the future, I would say, So I tried figuring out how to make this video as short as possible, but I have reached already an hour and 11 minutes and 30 seconds. So I am going to basically conclude this by saying I am very proud of myself. I went through so much to get here. 7 years. 7 years have passed officially on this day today. And I'm going to do it again next year and next year after that and the next year after that. And I hope that in any way that the individuals that have interacted with this year have actually gained some kind of benefit from my influence. And I look forward to further supporting you and influencing you in a positive way and in a way that would help you and assist you achieve your goals, which I'm sure you are fully capable of already on your own, as we all are. And just keep going. Just keep pushing, keep going, keep grinding. Because that first year is going to be rough. Maybe you might boom in the first second. I hope you do. That first year might be a little rough. Push through it. The second year might be a little rough. Push through it. That third year might be a little rough. Push through it. The fourth year might be looking a little juicy. Keep pushing. The fifth year is looking like it might be going a little backwards or a little forwards. Keep pushing. The fifth year is like, wow, I can't believe we got to the fifth year, to the sixth year, and to the seventh year. You just keep going, keep pushing, keep moving forward, keep going up, keep rising up, keep doing it, and just keep going. Don't give up. And if you need me for anything, I am available for you. Thank you very much. Please excuse me for going right here and pressing stop record. Peace.